Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. It is what we know of as desperately hot here in Nova Scotia. That means the temperature's a little over 30 degrees. I know it's really bad in other parts of the world, but you sweat where you sweat, don't you? I have two books to bring to you today, and then I think I'm going to follow with a tiny little sort of chatty thing. And then for those of you who like knitting, I'm going to talk about this shirt that I knit. So towards the end, if you don't want to listen to that, that's just fine. I read two books over the weekend. Over the weekend. We were up at the camp, and that always means that I can get a bit more reading done because there are just less distractions. I have almost no power up there, electrical power, and do have internet, but it's very costly because I have to put on roaming or something. So I have to really pay attention to what I'm spending my internet hours doing. And that meant more reading. It also meant more knitting. The first book that I was reading, I think I mentioned last week, just as an intro, The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal. I'm going to say Kowal. Whoops, let me pull it back a bit. Yeah, there's that stupid library glare. Okay, so you can see the cover, or you can see the name. Okay, she is the author of The Calculating Stars. She has won, not for this book, but for other books, Hugo, Locus, and Nebulas. Now, it's about Tesla Crane, who is a brilliant inventor, and she's on her honeymoon on an interplanetary space liner. Cruising between the moon and Mars, she's traveling incognito and enjoying it. Then someone is murdered. And it's called here the festering chowderheads who run security have the audacity to arrest her spouse. Armed with banter, martinis, and her small service dog, Tesla is determined to solve the crime so that the newlyweds can get back to canoodling. I had an ambivalent ride with this book. I'm sorry, no matter what I do, I'm just going to get some kind of shine here. The house, because it's really, really strong light and dappled with the trees around, I just cannot get a good corner to video in. So sorry if it irritates you. Irritates me too. Okay, The Spare Man, I sort of loved it and sort of didn't love it. Tesla, didn't like her name. I mean, that was just because, I don't know. When was it written? Did she have options? 2022. Yeah, she didn't have to choose the name Tesla. I thought that was unfortunate. The dog is called Gimlet, which is a bit of a joke because this couple really like their martinis and their different sort of not cocktails like margaritas, but sort of gin and vermouth type cocktails. And each chapter opens with a little recipe of 2 ounces bourbon, 0.75 ounces lemon juice, 0.5 ounces simple syrup, cherry. Shake ingredients over ice for 13 seconds. Garnish with cherry. So you can tell it's American measurements. But the other thing is, you can go through this. If I'd known in advance, I would have got myself a whole bunch of different alcohol, and I could have just had a different drink with each chapter. That would have made for a completely different book. Okay, so Gimlet, there's a kind of a drink called a Gimlet, so that's what the Westie is. Now, this is taking place far in the future, and we've got interplanetary cruising is a luxury, fun thing to do. There's been settlements on different planets, and Earth is still around, but it's just not the center of the world anymore. There's enough off-site satellites and communities and so on that it's just part of many. So she's this incredibly wealthy heiress, and her dad had made a whole bunch of investments, and she was involved in a really desperately bad technical accident that ended up with her being I guess, crushed in a way. And so what they've done is they've restored her spine and quite a bit of the spine, I guess, using pins and like whatever technology biomedics that they needed to. So that part's not really new. As someone was saying to me, oh yeah, we've got that in real life now. And I'm thinking, yeah, but so why wasn't this described a little bit more? In a way, my reading of her medical situation it was vague because it hasn't really been invented yet. And then I thought, no, wait a minute, we've got incredible prosthetics out there. So why wasn't that a little more? It was such a part of the book, her pain levels and her having to dampen the pain so that she didn't feel anything, and then also like couldn't feel anything if she was lifting up a glass or something, or having to heighten them in order to be able to move. This was like an ongoing barometer of pain release, and we spent more time sort of in the releasing and masking of pain that I think it would have been kind of fun to find out, what was going on with her by prosthetically wise, but we didn't. So the husband they're traveling along a corridor and someone screams, and the husband, who is a retired detective, has run to see what's going on. So he is seconds by himself with this murder victim, and then gets picked up for the crime. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing that happens that I didn't love was that the investigating officer, the head honcho of security, is just a dimwit. I mean, I don't think he could have got himself out of a ghost bumps mystery. It was like, what? Like, come on. So there was all kinds of rules that they were breaking in terms of international treaties and things on procedures on what you can do when you've got a cruise line that's for international people. What are the protocols that you can or cannot do? You can't hold a trial, for instance, on board one of these cruise liners because you have to get to a port of call where there's proper procedures. So it's like this guy was just continually buggering things up. Of course, there's got to be someone in the police force or security force who has a head on their shoulders, and so we have that. We've got the husband and wife team who are trying to solve things. The detective husband is reluctant, so he engages and disengages, and Tesla as a person is either drugged or not drugged, because she can control this herself through thought. So she's not actually on anything like fentanyl or what have you. It's part of her bioprosthetic, I guess, is some sort of deep brain control system that allows for her to engage it or not a toggle, but whatever. So she's either in pain, not in pain, pissed off, ready to shout, holding her temper, or really, really exhausted. She didn't have much character. There was no character arc for anybody in the book. I mean, even the dog didn't change anything. The dog was there as her service animal, and yeah, once we got into about the 4th or 5th chapter, you pretty much knew what you were going to get in terms of the who and what kind of characters and what their roles were going to be. It's not a well thought out book with respect to the people in it. On the other hand, the setting was pretty cool. It's like a moving cruiser, a cruise ship. I've never been on a cruise ship, and so getting to know all the different decks and service corridors and all that sort of thing was interesting. Also, I hadn't really thought about this, but there's a time lag when you do communications between Earth and wherever in the atmosphere. There's some kind of gap between transmitting a message and receiving a message, which you should know from watching the news, because the guy who's standing there with the hand on at the news, CNN is doing something, and then they're nodding and nodding, and then they go, oh yeah, okay, it's me. And so there was a little bit of that going on, but it was why that was important is that we've got her lawyer on Earth and Tesla and hubby in the thing communicating, but there's like a 5-minute gap between transmissions, and so they're crossing over each other conversationally, and then it gets bigger. It's 10 minutes, and so the lawyer is responding to something that happened 10 minutes ago, but then these guys are responding to something. By the time it comes back to them, it's 20 minutes, and so there's all this really intertwined dialogue that was going on. It was a bit of a challenge to keep up with that in a way, because like smartassery was everywhere. The lawyer, I could sort of got on my nerves after a while. It was funny, but it was the same funny, and I think I would have liked to have seen. There was no evolution in this book. But I kept going because I couldn't figure out the mystery. I mean, I couldn't figure out why certain people were dying, and I couldn't figure out who could possibly have done it. It was really clear that the main characters had done it, because we're in their head. We know, that they're lying on the bed while someone is being murdered off on another part of the ship. So we know who's not the murderers. I would say that I had a pretty good idea about two things that were probably happening. The dog goes missing. I had that figured out, not specifically, but pretty close. And I did not figure out who the murderer was, and nor could I figure out the whys of the murdered victims. So in a way, it was a good book. Would I read this author again? I would give her another go. She, to see whether it just happens to be the way she's decided to draw these characters that just didn't work for me. Maybe as characters they were just too much of a sketch of themselves. But she's got The Glamourist Histories as a series of 5 books, then a standalone called Ghost Talkers, and then she also has the Lady Astronaut series with 3 books. So I think, depending on what's in the library, I might try one of her other books and just see whether she actually can write a character. But she can write a mystery. So like 50-50. All right, the other book I read, which, well, those of you who've been following me for a long time, which aren't too many of you, will probably recognize this author, Janet Evanovitch. She has been writing this series. We're now on 31 books in this series. She's also written multiple other, there's the Fox and O'Hara novels, Night and Moon, the Lizzie and Diesel novels, which I thought was pretty funny. And so there's just a bunch. Metro Girl was kind of fun. So this is Stephanie Plum, who is a bonds agent, and so she goes after people who did not show up for their court dates, because if you don't reschedule, you're considered a felon, and your bond gets, I guess the court gets it, and so her boss has written. I'm still not getting. Her boss is the bond agent. So he sends her out to repossess, as it were, these individuals and get them to reschedule, so that way they don't forfeit the money. And she gets a portion of this. That's how she makes her money. So she's not a steady income gal. And as we encounter Stephanie from the first one, where she is completely at a loss as to what she's doing, she is one catastrophe after another. Oh, I laughed and laughed. And I have continued to laugh through the whole series. I did laugh through this one. And what finally happens here, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the end of this series, because there's a thing at the back where we're introduced to 2 other names of other books that are already published. So I think this is finally done. And it's not a spoiler alert, but it is just, it gives you a sense of how, if you're really, really interested in finding out what Stephanie does with her 2 men love interests, which are a theme through the whole series, you will find out in here. So I'm not going to tell you what happens because, yeah, I was on the edge of my pants for the whole reading of this book too. She doesn't give it away. She keeps that one close to her chest. Now, Stephanie's other character in this book is Lula, who is an ex-ho, and she's fairly short, extremely bodacious, always likes to wear her clothes at least 2 sizes too small. And she was, on one moment, Stephanie picks her up from her apartment, and she's wearing a bandeau kind of sparkly t-shirt and a red wig and a mini skirt that barely covers what should be covered. And her running stilettos that were only 4 inches instead of 6. Now, this was a woman of girth, and I'm just thinking, oh my word, how are those stilettos propping her up? Like, I almost don't know what the mystery is in here. Stephanie's got to get, over the course of this book, there's 3 really dominant people that she has to pick up. And one of them is really sweet and accommodating, and his mom gets involved, and she bakes cookies for the bond agents because they're so nice to her son. And then there's another fellow who's part of the ex-mafia and pretty rough. Everybody's pretty rough around the edges, and yet Stephanie manages to just charm her way through the most madcap things into getting compliance from this gentleman to go sign in to the courts. And then the last one, the creepiest one, is a fellow who's convinced he's a vampire. And I don't want to give it away because there's so many people being apprehended for these bonds. There are about 4 plot lines running through in terms of that, but there's also she's got to make a decision about these men, and she's got to make a decision about her life, and so there's a whole bunch of other things happening. It's very, very it's not exactly action packed, but there's a lot of through lines going forward. Now, in the past, funeral homes have gone up in flames. Big trucks have exploded. Multiple cars have been lost to multiple ways of losing cars. She's been kidnapped. She's been, she's been kidnapped a few times. She's managed to get into fisticuffs. She cannot land a punch at all. She cannot stand to fire a gun. So she has no bullets in her gun, and she keeps it in the cookie jar. So there's lots going on, and I really loved it. And I have loved everything that I have read by this author. Now, people talk about palate cleansers and books to read that give you joy. I think this series has been that for me. I've often picked it up when, like for instance, around Christmas time, I'll often pick up a book because historically it was pretty stressful. It's not anymore, but it's been a time when I often will just try and find her latest book. I've picked it up when I've had to go on traveling. I also, one of the other reasons I like to pick her up is she's easily available. So if you lose the book on a plane or something at the beach, you can get it back again pretty easily. And it's always been available at the library. So those are all good reasons for me to pick this up. But mostly, I just read these books and come out happy. They cheer me up. Some of the stuff is so, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a TV show that maybe would be similar. Maybe some of Mr. Bean. I don't know, his Christmas special, maybe. So it's good humor, and the sex is off camera, and there isn't any swear words. So for those of you who don't like that sort of thing, it's not there. I'm disappointed that I've come to the end, but hopefully, I did say to you, the next, she's got something that was published in, I think 2024, called The Recovery Agent, and The King's Ransom is 2025, and it's a female protagonist, and she's doing something different. I think it's more in the world of tracking down stolen art or artifacts or treasures or that sort of thing. I suspect there's probably a bit of a Crocodile Dundee kind of vibe to it. And she's got an ex-husband, I believe, who won't leave her alone. So, yeah, I wonder how that will work. Probably not well. Okay, so that's it for me as far as books goes. I'm going to talk to you for a little moment. For those of you who are knitters, I knit this T-shirt. It took me not too long. It's called the Tolstoy Tee by the designer Creabea. She's from Britain. I think she's from Scotland. It's a really nice little pattern. And I've seen it recommended over and over again in terms of it's the sort of thing you cast on and you can follow the pattern. She's got it's like what they call a vanilla pattern. So that people have striped it or put in little lacy pieces or long sleeves, no sleeves. There's all kinds of variations on a theme that are available. The only thing I would say about it is, well, it's a summer t-shirt, so this is okay. I generally prefer my t-shirts to be a little closer to my neck and the back is quite low. So if I was doing it for a warmer t-shirt, I would take out quite a number of stitches right around there. And then what she does is once you get the collar in place, then you add in stitches around, and it also has short rows at the back. So for those of you who are knitting, you know what I'm talking about. The other thing that's sort of, I wouldn't recommend the yarn. I mean, it looks great. I really like it. I really like the color of it. It's sort of this oatmeal-y color, and I won't be able to get it. There's tiny little bits of a blue and tiniest, even smaller amounts of a pale pink running through it. They're very remote. So it came out a lot oatmealier than I like. I'm not generally a person who likes that kind of color. But the yarn itself, I cannot recommend. I'm so sorry. It's by Queensland. It's called the Eco Twist. It's green vegan blend of Eco Vero, recycled cotton, and natural linen. It's driving me crazy. It is so itchy. The linen I don't think was processed very well. As I was knitting, I was quite often having to take off little bits, little remainders, and there were so many that I missed. And I mean, yes, I can wear this with a t-shirt underneath, but the point is it's summer. It's supposed to be a cool shirt for summer. So do not recommend the yarn. I probably will reknit this as a, I'll probably reknit this as a winter sweater or a fall sweater because I do like, just put it on your needles and away you go. Okay, the other thing that's happening for those of you who watch spinners or bike racing, what's coming up on the July 4th is the Tour de France. And this is a bicycling marathon, I guess, up and around the hills of who knows, somewhere French. And well, what a bunch of spinners started to do 10, 15 years ago, maybe even longer, I have no idea. They started to spin because they're spinning their spinning wheels. And so they started to spin at the same time as the bike riders were spinning their wheels. And it's been going on for ages, and people will set little challenges for themselves. They'll maybe learn how to spin on a different, like a drop spindle, or they'll do X number of meters of yarn, and sometimes they've got together as a group and they've done things like spun enough yarn to get to the moon. So fun things. And so what I'm going to do it for 10 to 15 minutes a day. And I have this little bag, and then its equivalent. I'd like to get that spun up if I can. And it's a Cotswold wool, and I've had it for quite a while. I'm just trying to get all my spinning stuff out of I love spinning, but I'm just bogged down by the ownership of the fleeces. I want to get the fleeces out. And the other thing I found with spinning is I quite often don't make enough in order to knit anything more than a hat or a cowl or what have you. So yeah, so I'm haven't figured out the equation on that. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you about, in case any of you are out there who have been thinking about this, there's so much going on in the media, and this is the media, about social, I guess, doom scrolling, but I don't really mean just doom scrolling. I guess it would be YouTube scrolling. And a lot of people are saying, well, you know, I'm not going to do that as much. Well, I appreciate that as a comment because I can get a lot more knitting done or a lot more reading done if I don't spend time on YouTube. But I think what people, the messaging is trying to be is to don't watch the stuff that gives you pain, but try to watch the stuff that gives you nonfiction, documentaries, the kind of things that are going to make you walk away from the screen and feel like you've done something healthy for yourself. And so one of the things I've noticed is this is not the right word, ghosting. There's been a few people that I used to watch. They're just not online anymore. And they haven't made an explanation as to why that is. And so, yeah, I've been just trying to think to myself, and again, this isn't a complaint because, I'll explain in a sec. I haven't picked up any new subscribers for, probably 2 months, which is odd. I generally, let's just say I average a new subscriber once a week. And also my views are down. So I've probably dropped about 50% in terms of people viewing. And I'm just curious. So if anybody has a comment to make, is it because people have stopped watching YouTube, in which case they will not hear this question? So this is perhaps a completely rhetorical conversation I'm having with myself in the void. What's the reason people are viewing less? They've just given themselves fewer online minutes, or is the content, maybe there's an oversaturation of content? Someone made a point that if they reviewed a book, they had fewer views than if they did something like a book haul or something. And I thought, well, this is a place about book reviews. So if you like it, you're in the right place. Now, on the other hand, I'm not upset about this. When I started five and a half years ago, my goal was 25 viewers and 5 views a month. So I have more than met my goals, and I can relax for about 700, losses of subscribers before I'm going to be upset. But yeah, so I'm not upset or anything. I'm just curious as to what's happening out there in the people who are actually watching. What do you think this story is? We are so easily influenced by what we watch on these different devices. And so I'm just wondering whether some people who have been influenced off YouTube and are kind of thinking, why did that happen? So I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just out there asking questions and kind of trying to pay attention to what's happening. I'm going to keep going. I love talking about books. This will continue to be mostly about book reviews and the occasional knitting or textile or fiber thing. And I guess that's it for me. Thanks for sticking to the end. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye for now.